All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on modern medicine. We're going to follow one patient's journey from the moment they walk into the ER to the complex web of care that unfolds. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of how doctors figure out what's wrong, how a whole team has to work together under crazy pressure, and even some of the hidden dangers that exist in a place of healing. So, let's dive in.
You know, there's this old saying in medicine, and it's so important. Always listen to the patient. They might be telling you the diagnosis. And honestly, it's the absolute bedrock of everything we're about to talk about. Before any fancy scan, before any lab test, the real story, the real clues, they start with the person. This idea is going to be our guide.
Okay, so let's meet our patient. He's 53, he's just been in a car crash, and he's wheeled into the emergency room. But that's not the whole picture. He's also diabetic, and he has a history of drug abuse. So right off the bat, you can see this isn't a simple case. We've got the immediate trauma from the accident, but also these long-term issues bubbling under the surface. It's a real puzzle, and to solve it, the entire medical system has to kick into gear.
So where do they even start with a case this complicated? Well, a patient's journey begins right here. And you might be surprised. It doesn't start with a machine. It doesn't start with a needle. It starts with the conversation. It starts by just listening. In medicine, they call it taking a history.
Now, during this conversation, the doctor is basically playing detective. They're looking for two different kinds of clues, symptoms and signs. A symptom is what you tell the doctor. It's your subjective experience. My head is pounding, or I feel really nauseous. A sign, on the other hand, is the objective stuff, what a doctor can actually see or measure for themselves. Think a high temperature on a thermometer, or a visible rash. Both are absolutely critical pieces of the puzzle.
And get this, that initial conversation, it's not just a formality. It is incredibly powerful. A really good, detailed patient history, just talking and listening, can lead doctors to the correct diagnosis up to 70% of the time. Let that sink in for a second. 70%. Before a single drop of blood is drawn, before a single X-ray is taken, the answer is often just sitting right there, waiting to be heard in the patient's story.
Okay, so the story gives them a roadmap. Now it's time to start gathering the hard evidence. This is the next phase, gathering the clues. The medical team starts digging deeper to see what's really happening inside the body. And that means lab tests and imaging.
One of the first places they look is the blood. It's like a liquid diary of your body's health. It's made of two main parts. About 55% of it is plasma, which is mostly water with proteins and other stuff mixed in. Then there's the other 45%, the cellular elements. And this is where the action is. We're talking red blood cells carrying oxygen, white blood cells fighting off invaders. A single blood test can tell them so much.
Next, they need to actually see inside the body. An X-ray is a classic tool, and it works on a really simple principle. Think of it like a shadow. Air lets the X-ray beams pass right through, so it shows up as black. But really dense stuff like bone or, say, a piece of metal blocks the beams, and that casts a white shadow on the film. Everything else, like fat and muscle, is somewhere in between on a scale of gray. It's the simple scale from black to white that lets doctors map out our internal structures.
So we've got the patient's story. We're starting to get lab results and images. But there's no way one person can put all of this together, not with a case this complex. No matter how brilliant a doctor is, they can't do it alone. Modern medicine is a team sport, through and through.
And there's a name for this: interprofessional practice. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea is simple. Get all the experts in the room working together. For our patient, this means the ER doctor, a surgeon for the accident trauma, an endocrinologist for the diabetes, a pharmacist, a physical therapist, all of them bringing their piece of the puzzle to the table to get the best outcome.
But when you have that many people involved, communication is everything. In a high-stakes place like a hospital, you can't risk misunderstandings. So they use structured tools like SBAR. It's a really simple framework to make sure nothing gets lost. You state the situation, give the relevant background, offer your assessment, and make a recommendation. It forces clear, concise communication, and it absolutely saves lives.
Now, you can't just throw a bunch of experts in a room and expect magic to happen. Great teams have to be built. They go through stages. First is forming, where everyone is polite and just figuring things out. Then comes storming. This is the tough part, where ideas clash and there's conflict. But if they can push through that, they get to norming,
where they build trust and find their groove. And that's when they can finally get to performing, operating like a single, efficient unit.
Okay, so the team is performing, the tests are in. It seems like our patient is in the best possible hands. But there's another challenge, a hidden danger that lurks in the very environment designed to heal.
And that danger is called a healthcare-associated infection, or HAI. It's exactly what it sounds like, an infection that a patient gets while they're receiving care for something else. They didn't have it when they walked in the door. They picked it up from the hospital environment itself.
And the terrible irony is that these infections are often linked to the very devices meant to save lives. That central line delivering medicine can become a highway for germs into the bloodstream. Catheters, ventilators, even the site of a surgery can all become open doors for dangerous bacteria if everyone isn't incredibly careful.
So, what's the biggest culprit in spreading these infections? You might think it's something complex, but it's not. It's something we all have. It's our hands. Of all the ways germs can travel around a hospital, simple physical contact is the #1 superhighway for transmission.
To fight this, healthcare professionals think about something called the chain of infection. For an infection to actually happen, all 6 of these links have to connect. You need the germ, a place for it to live, a way out, a mode of transmission, a way in, and a person who's susceptible. The goal of infection control isn't to fight all 6 links at once. It's to find the weakest point and break just one. And often, the easiest link to break is that mode of transmission, with something as simple as washing your hands.
So, we have followed this entire complex journey. We've seen the patient's story turn into a diagnosis, we've seen the team come together, and we've seen the invisible dangers they have to fight every single day. So after all that, what does it mean for you? What's your role in all this?
Just think back on everything we've talked about. We've seen incredible science, from blood analysis to X-rays. We've seen these brilliant systems for teamwork and communication. But if you had to pick one thing, what is the single most vital, most essential tool in that entire hospital?
Well, what if I told you the answer isn't a $1 million machine, and it isn't a cutting-edge new drug? What if the most powerful tool in the entire complex world of modern medicine is you? An informed, engaged, and empowered patient, one who asks questions, who participates, who shares their full story, is an active partner in their own care. Because, as we saw from the very beginning, the whole journey starts and ends with the patient.